So again, feudal system, allodial system, it was dividing interest. The movie example, um, it was a first step. We went over the process, but the long and short of this is that the Mahele was very complex. And the reason I'm sort of purposely avoiding going into everything that happened during that time is that it is very complex. And to be honest, whole semester long classes are taught on this subject at the graduate level. It's extremely involved, okay? But just know this on the basics that there were four basic categories of people in Hawaii during that time, right? You had the king, you had the government, you had the chiefs in Konohiki and the Maka'ainana, right? And in order to claim an ownership in a parcel, you had to divide out your interests from any other person that had claim to it, whether that meant two people or three people or four people or just one person, right? It got complex because you had mahele between the king and government, king and maka'ainana, king and chiefs, government and maka'ainana. So each one of those processes and potential mahele got very complex. But just know that the basic thing that you should know for this class and understand is that it gave the right for people to own ownership, own land, and it was a process that was set up. It was a very complex process, but it was a very, very, very successful process. Okay. Okay. More just sort of general uh, terms and concepts. Again, it was complex, and we're not going to go into all of it. But the Board of Commissioners to Quiet Land Titles cleared up land titles in 1846. It was a fresh start. The analogy, think about it like this, okay? So imagine a chess game, right? And you have your chessboard, your black and white squares, right? Each of those squares could be like a little piece of property. You have your pieces on the board. Each piece is a different role, perhaps, right? And when you play chess, you're playing a game, right? So now one game is underway, okay, and it's already reaching its conclusion. This game is called Feudal, okay? The name of this chess match is called Feudal. Feudal chess, okay? Now, in order to begin a new game, you got to reset the board. You got to take all those pieces, put them back into their starting positions, and then you got to initiate another game, right? So, in effect, when the Hawaiian Kingdom was transferring land ownership uh, methods or systems, really, they couldn't just start right in the middle of one another game, right? They had to account for all the pieces, all the blocks on the board, and they had to proceed in an orderly fashion. So the Board of Commissioners to Quiet Land Titles said, okay, here's a date. Here's one day and time. And before we start assigning new titles, we have to make sure all the old titles are all accounted for. Right? I mean, it would be absolutely ridiculous to start a new game with the pieces already in play. I mean, that would not make sense at all. Right? You have to reset the board. Okay, and that's what happened with the Board of Commissioners to Quiet Land Titles. They started a new game. In order to start a new game, they had to count for all of the title in the property that existed, and they had to look at all of those different claims, set them to rest, quiet them. Okay, we quieted all the pieces on the chessboard by resetting them, and now we can play a new game. And this new game is called Allodial. Okay, the game that we're playing today, we're still playing this game. It's called Allodial chess. Okay, and there are strategies involved, right? As we see, there are rules to the game, right? As we just saw with Joe Maka'ainana, he had rules to follow. He was a piece on the board. Okay, so in a sense, conceptually, that's really what happened, right? Um, it was like accounting. You had to put all your ledgers and clean up all your past ledgers in order to start a new tax season or a new fiscal year, whatever it is, right? And those rules were in place in 1847. Two major mahele follow in 1848, which we're not going to really have time to go into. And those major divisions were for the kings and crowns lands, and mahele were being done all the way up until 1890. Okay. Now another question that's not written here, but why do you think the mahele kept getting extended all the way up to 1890? right? It started in 1846. That's a long time to 1890. Why do you think it kept getting extended? Well, the answer is because of the answer is one word, aloha. The answer is aloha because our king, Kamehameha, starting with Kamehameha the third and on, really, really wanted people to get their claims in. They wanted people to get their land titles settled and quieted. They wanted people to get in on this new system, right? The system was there where they wanted to participate or not, but they wanted them to get in on it. And so they kept making extensions and extensions and extensions to really help the people out. That's what it was for, which was kind of really, really nice. And it shows you how much our leaders were inspirational. So basically, kind of graphical analysis. Um, so you have the king, Ali'i, little tenants. Sorry, they should all kind of be smiling, or maybe. Oh, actually, look in the on the left side, right in the feudal system, some are smiling and some are sad. Yeah, because some had good Ali'i, others had bad Ali'i, and maybe they were kind of not too happy. Some were happy. So what happens is they went from this undivided interest, right? This is what it represents: undivided interest, feudal ownership, okay, of land in Hawaii, and we go to a divided interest system. We do the mahele. This is the mahele right here. And what happens is this: everybody has divided out interest. We just divided out interest in ownership. And now look, everybody's smiling. And what happens is wa mahele ia, which means we have now done a mahele. Okay? And that's kind of what it is. Undivided interest to divided interest. Okay? And that's kind of the end of it. And if you focus in on the background slide over there, we'll bring that to life. And if you're wondering, I took that picture. Actually, it was a neat day. But yeah, that concludes our presentation. And mahalo. Post up any questions you might have. Aloha.